Audio Jungle.
All right, Jamie, one of the other questions we get a lot of when it comes to this industry and getting started, I'm sure you have a lot of clients that ask you about, well, what does it take to do this financially? And, how do you size that up? You see people talking about very low entry level points, and you hear about these gazillion-dollar stores. So kind of how did that shake out for you?
So I think that's part of the beauty of the industry is that you kind of get to choose your own adventure. Typically, your initial investment for your first laundromat might be a little bit more than subsequent laundromats. We purchased this business for about $200,000. And all in, we were a little over $300,000 on a cash investment to get started. I think sometimes people are surprised at how much laundromats actually cost. And so this one is actually just under $1 million.
Right, because all the equipment that you put in right away is a big part of that.
Yep, so buying the business, putting in the equipment, updating the facility, because you're not going to put in nice new equipment and then not upgrade your facility. And then there's working capital, right? So what it takes to market a new business, to brand a new business the way you want to, all of those things.
Because there is a ramping
dollars.
up period, right? Even though this was an existing store and you put all the time in to renovate, it still takes time to ramp up those numbers.
It does. And I feel very fortunate that after our initial investment, the business pretty much cash flowed. And so I think that's always what I shoot for with my clients for the most part, is how fast can we ramp up their business through things like marketing.
Right.
And so that worked for me. And so
sometimes you work hard and you have a winner, right? And it cash flows right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Kind of that amount of debt service that you're taking on has a big role to play in that cash flow equation. So
and how big the facility is, right? So this is a smaller laundromat. So to cash flow a laundromat that's 2,200 square feet versus a laundromat that's 5,000 or 7,000 square feet, those numbers are going to look a little bit different.
Okay. So now that you're a couple years in and you got your $1 million invested, how are you feeling about how that investment's working out for you, and what are you looking at perhaps down the road?
Yeah, I'm really happy with our initial investment. I'm also very grateful that I intentionally was a little bit conservative. I have dreams of, building bigger and nicer facilities. But the truth is that we wanted to make sure that we had a really good investment thesis out of the gate. And I don't think that there's any substitution for just hands-on learning. This really is a full business operation. And so there's a lot of infrastructure that goes on to help a business work successfully. That will make it much easier to scale for future facilities. One thing I've learned over the past 5 years, if I didn't know it before, is that you really can't force things and you can't rush things. And so I think it pays off to be patient. It's the
hardest thing to do, but
it's so hard.
But it's the best advice.
And so knowing, hey, we've got a pretty full plate right now. We're open to expanding when we find the right locations. And in the meantime, we're just going to do the very best that we possibly can do with what we have.
Yeah, and still a lot of upside potential here at Clean Vibes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we continue to grow. Summer is definitely slower. It's a good bit slower than maybe some people realize, or at least in this market. I think other markets maybe not as much, but this one is quite a bit slower in the summer. And the beauty is that because we took a conservative approach, it still is profitable.
Yeah, you can handle those lulls, which are natural, seasonality, ebb and flow of the business.
Yeah. So, month over month, we're, consistently growing. And so I'm really grateful for that.